Okay, this is our Black fashion industry presentation, and we will be discussing the history as well as its effects on the Black American community. So for today's agenda, we have key terms, as well as the history and Black fashion today. So our first term is cultural appropriation, and it is essentially the adoption of another culture's elements by one. It is seen as controversial when dominant cultures adopt from minority cultures. Our second definition is street style, and it is a form of fashion, a form of casual fashion, and it is worn by urban city youths mostly. It grew in popularity from New York hip hop fashion in the 90s. Our third definition is about the difference between trends and styles. Trends are essentially the popularization of certain fashions or styles, and they're defined by their popularity and the time period of the development. Styles are basically any distinguishing characteristics or features in a fashion type. The last definition we have is bar cloth, and it's made by beating the inner bark of trees until the material is softer. It's a versatile material grown in a fertile region of Uganda in the central southern area, and it's used mostly for religious and ceremonial pieces.
Now I want to talk about the traditional African fashion. So Black fashion starts with traditional African clothing, and due to the climate of the African continent, clothing was not a necessity. However, the first type of clothing worn was bark cloth, but also fur, skins, and hides. Typically, males wore these cloths as aprons, while women typically wrapped their bodies in them to mainly cover the front parts of their body. However, this traditional clothing evolved when textile began to exist when it inhabited parts of Africa. Textiles first became prominent in Africa during the Phoenician times, and this contributed to the colorful fabrics worn by African people in a modern sense. These same colorful fabrics became a sign for wealth, and African textile later became worldwide, with it also being preferred over European cloths during the 17th and 19th centuries. And with that being said, this colorful fabric has meaning, especially to display social status. However, it varies from people to people. Now onto the meaning behind African traditional clothing. The four types of cloths Africans use to create clothing is weaves, tie-dyes, batiks, and industrial prints. And furthermore, weaving represents a tradition that is passed down from father and son, mother to daughter, uncle to nephew, and aunt to niece. The degree of complexity of the weaving also determines value while factoring in color and the type of thread that is used. Some examples of woven cloth are Bogolan-Fini, Aso Oke, Kuba Raffia, and Kente. Once again, color has a deeper meaning, which is mainly shown in Kente cloth. Gold is for the status and serenity. Yellow is for fertility and vitality. Green is for renewal and growth. Blue is for God and the omnipotence of the blue sky. Red is for passion of political determination, struggle, and defense. Black is for seriousness, union with ancestors, and it also implies spiritual awareness. Bogolan-Fini is a traditional cloth of the Bamako people, which contains motifs of fish bones and little stars. And Aso Oke is a traditional cloth of the Yoruba people. Furthermore, Kuba Raffia is a traditional cloth from the Kuba people of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Kente cloth is from Ghana. Traditionally, cloths were used by people of certain status or specific ceremonies, but is now worn by many people, and it's also influenced by other cultures, such as raffia was an inspiration for a French painter by the name of Matisse, and it is also still impacting fashion today. Now I just want to show the types of cloths that I mentioned, which I have kente cloth on the top left, and I have bark cloth on the bottom left. In the middle, there is Bogolin Fina, which is mud cloth. And below that is the Kuba Rafia. And on the top right is the Aso Okay. And on the bottom right is just an example of traditional African clothing.
Urban fashion and their trends. So urban fashion was originally made for comfortable city clothing, which can vary anywhere between from baggy clothes with a lot of pockets or even as little as just a t-shirt with a graphic design on it. Urban fashions has had such an impact on the fashion industry because of how popular it has become. It's a mix between casual and streetwear, which gives its own unique style. Urban fashion ideas are usually influenced by that city or region or whatever is most popular at that time socially. There's always something new coming out, which is why urban fashion is always going to be popular. Urban fashion was started back in the 80s. It was influenced by the hip hop culture, which was still new to a lot of people. Urban fashion is one of the looks within the hip hop industry, which is another reason why it's popular. So some trends with urban fashion are wearing bucket hats with outfits, big hoops, earrings, sneaker culture, camouflage clothing, colorful graphic designs printed on clothing are all popular urban fashion trends. All these trends were made by Black influencers such as athletes and hip hop artists. These trends have gotten so popular that it has influenced different countries to open up urban fashion stores, which leads to more growth and popularity within the urban fashion industry.
Here are just some quick examples of cultural appropriation. We have some celebrities. On the left, we have Katy Perry with straight backs. The second picture is Kim Kardashian wearing Fulani braids. The last picture is Justin Bieber with locks. The third is what appears to be a Frenchman with traditional Native American headdress, which is reserved for leaders and members of the Native American tribes.
So some examples of Black fashion. Black fashion has been around as long as the fashion industry has. Non-Black people have taken advantage of the fact that Black voices have been silenced for centuries and therefore try to take these ideas on as their own. So just some examples of Black fashion that we see today are Jordans, bucket hats, hoop earrings, logo printed t-shirts, baggy clothing, camouflage pants, and scripted jewelry. And all of these originated in Black fashion, but we see them today on people that are not Black, and they're deemed as ghetto on Black people, but then popularized when worn by non-Black people. So some ideas on the Black fashion industry today are ideas that are stolen. So for example, Gucci stealing from designer Dapper Dan in 2017. At the bottom, we can see this image where Dapper Dan's design is on the left and Gucci's design is on the right. Also, entrepreneurs stealing bonnets and selling $5+ on Shark Tank. Cooking cap was an idea that was brought to the Shark Tank and marketed as a new invention, although bonnets have been around for a long time, and same with nightcaps. Also, brands and influencers continue to capitalize off of Black people by stealing from Black craft, and it's extremely disappointing to see how they continue to get away with it, such as fast fashion brands such as Fashion Nova and Pretty Little Thing. Also, there has been a lack of representation within the community and industry, I should say. For example, the Mammy archetype, which are plus size women. And it's really sad because it just reduces plus size women to an identity tied to their physicality. Also, we see a lot of women with Eurocentric features. There's also the debate of, is a model too light? Is she too dark? Is her hair too kinky? Is it too loose? Um, are her features too Eurocentric, or are they Eurocentric enough? And we see the same for body types. So is she too thick, or does she have a waist? Is she too thin? Does she fit these Eurocentric body types? They see enough representation within the LGBTQ plus community. So we don't see enough gay Black models or lesbian Black models, or even transgender Black models. Also, there is a stigma when it comes to buying Black, people being anti-Black in general, so not wanting to support Black businesses because of the color of the owner's skin or their culture. There's also stereotypes that are very untrue, which people will automatically think that Black owned or Black affiliated business will automatically have poor customer service, lazy workers, inconsistent hours, and a host of other negative attributes just because of the neighborhood in which the business is located, the clientele it serves, or the race of its owners is harmful and damaging. And as stated before, we do live in a society where it is a predominantly white market. So people are going to want to trust big white owned brands rather than taking a chance on a small Black owned business.